Yeah.
I keep the Alexa in my office
Yes.
because I it's connected to my Nest, and when I get a package
Yep.
from Amazon, like it pops up. It tells me um, package has arrived.
Yep.
I use Google as my alarm clock, and I use Siri for everything else, right?
Yep.
Like day to day, right? But
Yeah. No, I have. I'm a Google fan, so it's a Google Assistant.
fair enough.
Siri will be Haley's phone.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So it's May the 5th,
May the
Mother's
seventh. May
Day.
the seventh, buddy.
Is it May the? Oh, geez,
May
it's the
the
fifth
fifth.
month. It's the fifth month,
It's the
May the
fifth month.
7th.
You're recovering from.
That's
You're
why we were off last week, because no, I'm still recovering a week after,
from the
right?
tax.
No, it's damaging, but no, it's been 2 weeks kennelled.
Yes.
You know,
Time
welcome
flies.
welcome to May.
Yes.
And tomorrow's Mother's Day.
Yes.
It's we're two dads here
Yeah.
talking about typically finance, personal finance, two dads, but no, we rarely talk about women in our life and our mothers. I guess we have Kendall, you and I have at least two things in common. We both have moms,
Yes.
and we both have wives who are mothers.
Yes.
So that's our topic of the day.
Yeah. No, I think. Yeah. When you first broached the topic, yeah, I was like, this is perfect. I was like, yeah, Mother's Day is tomorrow. That was definitely top of mind this week. For me, I actually just had a Mother's Day lunch with my mom this afternoon with my brother. And then we're doing something. I was supposed to do personal training tomorrow for my half marathon training, but then I realized, oh wait, it's Mother's Day tomorrow, and I was like, I totally forgot, right? And then
It just sneaks up on you,
yeah, I
right?
know. And then Haley was like okay with it. She forgot too. And then until midway through this week, and she's like, I was like, oh, what do you want to do for Mother's Day? She's like, well, you have like personal training. We're not doing anything. And I was like, well, I can postpone it. Like that's Mother's Day is important. Like just but you have to want to celebrate, right? Maybe you want it off. I don't know what you want, right? And she's like, no, take it off. I was like, okay. So I pushed that over a week, and yeah, we're debating. And she's getting better at it. Usually she'll like tell me kind of like the date of what she wants, and the stuff she
Hmm.
wants is like all booked, like the high teas, the spas, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's the same
My
thing.
my wife is easier, actually.
Okay.
Her birthday last year,
Yeah.
I had to get her beef fried noodles.
Okay.
I had to get her Korean fried chicken,
Yeah.
and I had to get her Singaporean Hainan chicken.
Okay.
And that was it. That was her birthday last year.
Wow.
And I anticipate. I mean, I have no instructions for tomorrow, right? But
First
I
Mother's Day for
imagine it's
you.
going to be,
First
yeah,
Mother's
it's
Day for
Mother's
you.
Day.
Yeah.
Well, my
Oh,
wife's first
for your wife.
Mother's
Yeah,
Day.
yeah, for your wife.
Yeah.
That you're celebrating, yeah,
Uh,
with your wife as the first Mother's Day.
yeah.
So.
And my mom actually didn't want anything.
Hmm.
I asked her, it's like, what do you want to do for Mother's Day? Every year I ask her,
Yeah.
and she's like, just come on over and whatever, we'll have a meal or something, but it's never anything special, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like a jerk. I've never bought my mom flowers for probably like the last 10 years,
But I
but
don't
no,
know.
she
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't want it either.
yeah. But I don't know if it's like your. I mean, my mom's the same. She's super
Yeah.
practical. She's always like, "Oh, don't waste money on flowers. Like, do
Yeah.
something else, right?" And so I grew up with thinking, okay, like, yeah, let's do something more practical. And then Haley's kind of the same too, where she's like, "Yeah, don't get me flowers. Like, do something else more worthwhile." But
Hmm.
then she would also out of the blue be like, "I wish I had flowers," and I'm like, "Okay, like, so you."
It's always after the fact,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the typical thing. They tell you they want nothing, but obviously they want something,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But to put a spin on it, I mean, our channel is personal finance
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would nominate that it was I would give credit to my mom
Yeah.
to she's the one who taught me about personal finance, right?
Mhm.
Albeit, I'll give her some credit. She wasn't the greatest, but and I say not the greatest because she's no, my mom is the very risk adverse type, right?
Mhm.
For first 25 years of my life, I was invested in nothing but government bonds. I was getting government bonds at 2%, 1%, 0.5%, right, all the way up until I was about, I'm gonna say 20. I think actually 23, 24, 25. She had invested on my behalf growing up, right? And I wasn't, no, I didn't have access to that money. It was basically, this is the gift you get when you become an adult. And my mom stashed that money away from me, and it was a significant chunk as to how I ended up getting my first condo. I mean, it wasn't my entire condo, obviously. Real estate was almost always expensive in the city, right? But my mom basically taught me, save your money, right? No, work hard, save your money. Don't spend your money. Don't spend your money on stupid things, right? So no, kudos to my mom for teaching me basically, how to manage my money, right? Because in this day and age, it's hard to manage money, right? There's so many distractions in this world, in spending your money, right? Marketing has developed to a sense of purpose where it's formulated to take your money from you.
With
but
targeted
kudos,
ads and all that.
but kudos to my mom to teach me about personal finance. At the end of the day, she was the underlying foundation, and I am who I am today partly because of her. I would say I'm not gonna give her 100%. I give her maybe 68%.
I know. I echo those comments. I think similarly, my mom, if I were to kind of summarize kind of what you said, the only thing I would add is, she taught me kind of the difference between needs and wants, and always kind of made me wait and for things and save your money for this, like you kind of mentioned earlier. It was never oh, you want this, well, I'll give it to you. There was never spoilage in that sense. It was always like, earn it. And yeah, like, you have to save for it. You don't get it right away. You set a goal, so to speak. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate and what damage it has also done to me.
Really?
Yes, which
Sure.
I think. So because of this frugal mentality and don't spend. Yes, I've saved a lot of money, but I've also given up a lot of experiences as a result of it.
I understand that. Sure.
And the most recent example is how I had to unlearn saving, so to speak, when we went through COVID. And so the example would be I was such a saver that it's like, okay, my bank account was kind of running low, but all my savings were in TFSAs and RSPs and stuff like that.
Like your operating bank account.
Operating bank account was getting close to zero, right? It was kind of I'm paying my mortgage and stuff, and I'm here frantically saying okay, what do I do with how do I do this? And I don't know if I brought this story up here, but I always tell either my clients or my friends, my pastor who was counseling me at the time, pretty much became my financial planner. And it was very humbling experience, right? It's like, okay, I know he's very good at.
No, it's good. It's good to have someone to bounce your finances off somebody, right? Because we all have our bias at the end of the day, right? And it doesn't matter if it's your pastor or your best friend or anybody, right? It's good to just get a reflection on that. So.
But I would have the last person I would have thought would have been my pastor, right?
You never know.
Right? I know. You never know. Yeah, just. I'm a planner. I have a lot of friends in the industry, and God decides, no, your pastor's gonna be your planner just for that one instance. And we talked about budget and stuff like that, and he's like, make a budget and stuff. I have one, and this is couple counseling, so Haley's on the other side, and he's like, have you shared this budget with Haley? And I'm like, no, I haven't. She's not interested. She's like, no, it's important to share. So we're going through the finances and stuff. And then of course, it was negative cash flow, right, at that time.
Sure.
And then I'm like, see, this is why I'm panicking. I'm like, negative cash flow. And I'm gonna have to start borrowing.
You're bleeding every day. You're bleeding every month, basically.
Yeah. And then he started asking me about savings and stuff, and I showed him my TFSA account, and he's like, oh, you have more money than me, right? It's like, and you make more money than I do. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then he's like, Kendall, you have all these savings. I think at that time it was probably $50,000, $60,000.
Sure.
And I just didn't touch it because it was like, you're not supposed to touch your savings. You're supposed to
Yeah,
touch
your
it.
registered accounts, it's a big no to touch them,
Yeah,
basically.
it's
I mean, that's what we're taught.
yeah, and it's an emergency only, right? And then
Yeah.
this is the key moment. And my pastor's like, "We're in a pandemic. Don't you think we're in an emergency? Don't you think it's
Hmm.
okay to tap into those savings because, like all these things are happening and, it's okay now, right?" And I had to get
Yeah.
that reassurance to be like, "Oh yeah, it's okay to spend money." And
Yeah.
that's the point I want to bring up is like, yes, I have the savings. I ended up being very frugal and not,
Hmm.
waste money and, thank you in terms of I'm not in any bad debt. Like I have a mortgage and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. Good debt.
Good debt. Yeah. And I have been taught all that. But again, the flip side is like, I became cheap, right? Like
Hmm.
I didn't know how to enjoy life. I didn't know how to, really spend the money. And get value for it. Like I'll go to like
Sure.
the dollar store for something, but it's bad quality versus maybe investing in something that's
Hmm.
it's not for the name brand but for the quality of it. That at the end of the day, yeah, like a cutting board costing you $2 versus a cutting board that might be $50. Well, guess what? The $50 cutting board may not saying always, but may have a longer life shelf than a $2 cancerous,
I go to
Christmas.
Winners.
Well, Winners though. I go to Winners too. Winners has good quality stuff for cheap prices like that.
Oh, I was talking
Absolutely.
specifically cutting boards. I went to
Oh,
Winners.
okay. But still, Winners is like a great. Like I don't know why people like frown upon Winners. I think it's the best place to shop. Like hands down.
I'd say Costco.
Yeah.
No, my number one's Costco. Yeah, but that's again, that's my opinion, right? Um, do you share like nowadays, and maybe even before? Do you share your finances with your wife?
I do, but she again
Completely transparent about it.
completely transparent. But again, she always like even to a couple of days ago we were talking to a realtor, right? She's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I'm like falling asleep," right? I'm like, "Oh, I'm tired,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Man." I'm like, no, we gotta get you interested because it's like,
Hmm.
what happens if, knock on wood, something were to happen to me? I mean, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to raise going up. I'm like, I named the executor I named is one of my best friends. He's like a financial planner himself. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
worst case scenario, I already have a card and stuff. And he does the same, right? He's like, yeah,
Hmm.
if I were to, something were to happen to me, I already told my, girlfriend that, to come talk to you. So we're each other's like kind of backup. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I do want her to know
Hmm.
about like finances. I know it's boring and I'm trying to make it as fun as possible. But I don't know. Like she's just like, oh, you're the planner. Like you go take care of it. I know, but like I want you to be involved and because sometimes she'll freak out and think we have no money. But I'm like, no. We
Sure.
have this budget, right? We have this thing. It's okay to spend, right?
I
And
always
she's
tell
so.
I always tell my wife that we're poor. I always tell her poor. I always tell her like I'm broke, especially these days, this month when the market's crashing. I basically say it's like, oh, we lost $1,000 today on Shopify, right? we we can't eat meat today, right?
Oh
But
my.
we're gonna eat meat. We're gonna be eating that Costco rotisserie chicken for like days on end, basically, right? No, but I'm fully transparent
Yeah.
with with my wife in terms of our finances and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
She doesn't like money.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. Like she does not like talking about money.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I never really asked her. No, I know the fact she doesn't like talking about money. Maybe the saying money is a root of evil. It's like one of the roots of evil.
It's love of money. I gotta correct you. Like people just drop the love of, and they think money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money. Like that's key, right? That's so
I
key.
love money.
It's yeah. So that's the root of all evil, right? You mentioned
But
in previous
we
episodes.
talked
We
about
talked
this
about
addiction and
contentment
everything.
yeah, we talked about this.
Right, but I'm pretty transparent with her,
Yeah.
right? And I mention it even though like I bring up the topic virtually at least 3 or 4 times a week as to how we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I can see her eyes rolling rolling to the back of her head every time I mention it. But we got our wills done last year. We got them redone in anticipation of the birth of our son.
Yeah.
And we got them modeled the will basically done without our son's name in it, but to the extent that you know, he was going to be born relatively soon.
Right.
That it was worded in that way.
Right.
But I also left, kind of like an envelope of instructions.
Yeah.
Should I die,
Yeah.
like this is what you need to do,
Right.
right? Basically, you need to basically liquidate everything. You got to dump it into these particular ETFs, and you
Yeah.
live on the cash flow.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be set for life if you do this, right?
Yeah.
The insurance will come in.
Yeah.
They'll pay off the mortgage and whatnot. And all you have to do is pay the strata and the property taxes, and you're good, right?
Yeah.
You should be able to live forever on that in that
Yeah.
means, right? But it's an unofficial document set of instructions that
Yeah.
this is kind of what you need to do.
Right.
And I think it's worth the conversation to reassure, right, your partner at the end of the day to what's going to happen in the worst case scenario, because we never really think about it, right?
Yes.
We all think we're going to live forever,
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
We all think we plan to live until our 80s, and life can be cut short, right?
Yes.
And I mean, we don't expect to die tomorrow, but
Yeah.
it could very well happen, right?
I mean, I think COVID kind of brought that to a lot of people's attention, right? That we don't live forever. A pandemic can come at any time. And I think, after that, I mean, in my industry, I think a lot of people got their ducks in order, right? It was kind of like, okay.
What's very important, what else is important other than a will is the power of attorney.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people skip over that because, it's not mentioned in mainstream media. It's, half the time, or even maybe a third of the time.
Yeah.
I'm making up statistics. Everyone makes up statistics, right? The mainstream media basically says, make sure you don't die without a will, right?
Yeah.
But no one ever mentions power of attorney,
Yeah.
right? Where you get maimed, or, if you get sick to the extent where, you're alive but disabled,
Yes.
right? You need to have that power of attorney document, because, you may not be in a position to, sign on your behalf, right? To allow your power of attorney to take over for you, right?
Yeah.
But that's one of the big keys I learned, recently, is to have both documents in place.
That, and also the healthcare agreement should, something happen where you need your family member to kind of make that decision whether or not to pull the plug and stuff like that, right? Those things, whether to go to a retirement, like a care home or not, those things, are important. And people, it just slips through a crack. But speaking about like power of attorneys, though, it's like, I have multiple stories where it's like, how effective is this document until, I guess, you're incapable, because I go to the banks with it. I have one, like my mom did one for me when she went over to Hong Kong, and then my wife and we both have a power of attorney on each other.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the bank, I mean, I worked at the bank, and now I'm outside the bank, and it's changed so much since I've worked there. Before it was kind of like, power of attorney. Even at the banks, you can kind of sign documents very easy, but now I think they've and probably because some people have abused it, they now actually have, I think they have to send it to like a legal department for them to review and put the messages on the account. And but then it's so limiting. It's like it depends on the bank, right? Like TD's been pretty good, and I think maybe because I know some people there, so it's kind of like, okay, I okay, get it, family member, sure. But at RBC, it's a pain in the butt.
Funny that you mentioned it. So that was what I encountered recently, was RBC.
Yeah.
Is that it was a pain to, and it's, to be honest, in the situation that I'm aware of, it's still up in the air. They're not accepting the POA document.
Yeah. Like literally, my mom was like in Hong Kong. I was just playing with them because my dad obviously can go and get the bank draft for his house and stuff. But I was like, okay, what happens if, right? Like he's busy in a meeting. He is always busy, and I'm like, he just needs me to go do get a draft done up. And then he's just like, well, we need your mom to write a letter, to say that, she authorizes you on this account. And I'm like, okay, she's in Hong Kong right now. That's why I got this power of attorney done. You can call my notary who did this power of attorney, that, I'm acting in, like, I'm not taking the money to me. I'm writing it out to, this, in trust company. So literally I'm just doing her job. And that's what, like, it's in her favor. So, oh, no, we cannot do that. We need a letter. And I'm like, seriously? And then, like, how about taking cash out? Same thing. We need something in writing saying that, like, she authorized you to do this. And I'm like, then what the hell is this document?
And what's the purpose?
I paid $300.
What's the purpose, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the realtors are like, "Oh yeah, we accept this thing. You can sign a
Mhm.
deal. You can buy property."
It really depends who the recipient is,
Yes.
you know, whoever's using it, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, it depends on the financial institution as well,
Yeah.
right? Some, you know, and to be honest, it even depends on the person you hand it to,
Oh yes.
right?
Yes.
You know, if you get the right representative and the
Yeah.
right lawyer looking at it, they'll
Yeah.
you know, sign away and you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? But you know, it's the ones who wants to do the due diligence, and you know, it's their job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um,
And to
you
your
know,
point,
who
Tangerine did that, because
sure.
I was trying to take money out again for the house. It's all because of the
Mhm.
house, and they didn't like that word person was new, and she didn't read that one line and thought it was like me and my dad, and no, it said and or right. She didn't read that,
Yeah,
and then she's like nope, and then she just like rejected it, and I'm like no,
yeah.
please read, right, and then. And she didn't want to, and so I'm like, okay, pass me back to this other guy I was dealing with because he said it was
Mhm.
okay. And then he reread everything. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna put it on the system, no problem." I think she just missed that line because I had to
Jeez.
highlight and just like box
Yeah.
out and say. And that's the thing too with Tangerine. And I mean, and I kind of like offhand comment to them was like, "Yeah, this is
Mhm.
why I don't like I paid for being cheap." Right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to pay account fees, but yeah, now the service I don't get any service, right? I get
Yeah.
rejection after rejection because it's like I gotta mail this document over. I had to get a notary to stamp it, so there was a cost
Mhm.
there, and I had to follow up, and like literally it took me it got to the point where like I just used their limit, so I started like $50,000 was a daily limit, so I just set up like automatic withdrawals of fifty thousand
Sure.
dollars because it literally took that long before they like put it on. And so I
Yeah.
gave them, I'm like, what if, like, I needed the money today? He's like, well, you can pay for a bank draft. I'm like, I didn't want to do that. That's why I contacted you, like,
Yeah.
2 months in advance. And then
Mhm.
I had the foresight to be like, you know what, this is probably not going to go in time. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to systematically withdraw it, right? And then,
Yeah.
okay, this is the final kicker, and then you can kind of take over. Is that when I called in and the power of attorney was finally set up, they're like, oh, I need a supervisor to to approve
Improve it.
this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the supervisor was like a 20-minute, 30-minute wait. And I'm like, okay, like, seriously? I'm like, this is not worth my time. I don't want to be on hold. I mean, you've probably
Mhm.
been on hold with CRA, which is probably by far the
3 hours. 3 hours was my longest hold. I think it was like maybe 2 hours and 58 minutes or something, and then they
Mhm.
finally picked up. But I was actually surprised. I took a screenshot on it. I actually posted it on my newsfeed, and you know, but I just left it on speaker. Right, it
Yeah.
was at the end of the day.
But the music, man, it's like some kind of elevator.
It's the it's the
Like,
it's the it's the opera music.
yeah, it's like, oh
Yeah.
man, like it's annoying already waiting for you guys. Now I gotta listen to this other like, it's not pop hits, right? It's not classical music. It's just this
No,
annoying, just
it's
like,
opera.
yeah, please hang up, kind of like like we
I
don't
got
want to
used to it.
serve you.
I got used to it, right? But going back to moms,
Yeah.
it's Mother's Day tomorrow, and really, shout outs to, I'm just going to do a shout out to my mom as to, why she's special at the end of the day. Really, I didn't realize how difficult, being a mom is
Mm,
until, I had my own kid, right?
yes.
My wife has done a phenomenal job so far, so kudos to her. But
Yes.
I'll get to my wife later because she's a new mom versus old mom.
OG mom.
OG mom basically. But my mom had 3 kids, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think I've ever shared this story with you, Kenneth, or
Mhm.
even no. I don't think a lot of people who, if anyone, even watches these videos. I had a really useless dad.
Mm.
I just throw that out there. At least in my opinion, I thought he was a useless dad, right? And he was a great role model for me because to me it was become everything he is not.
Do the opposite.
Do the opposite. Whatever my dad did, just don't do what my dad did.
Right.
And that's the dad I wanted to be, basically, right?
Yeah.
And with my mom in that situation with my dad, and for my dad was around for 30 29 years of my life. He first of all, my dad had me when he was 50, so he was quite old.
50.
50.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember, I'm the last of my brothers.
Okay.
My oldest brother's 9 years older than me.
Okay. Oh wow.
Okay. My dad got married late.
Yeah.
So my dad had my brother when he was 40 or 41. Must be 41.
Right.
Because my dad was 50 when he had me.
Right.
And maybe, this is maybe a Father's Day conversation about my dad. But my dad being his age, right? And he had health conditions as well, right? Yeah. His age and his health conditions. He wasn't really that dad. He wasn't really the fatherly figure, right? And so I was mainly raised by my mom, right? And my mom had 3 kids and everything, right? And she worked like 14 hours a day, making pennies on the dollar type of job, right? She was she had a business, right? We ran a farm in Richmond, right? And farms are, you're working 8 months of the year, 12, 14 hours a day, and then you have no income for 4 months of the year because of wintertime, right?
Yeah.
And so, she raised 3 kids, and she always would say, I did the best I could for you 3, right? And I never believed her, right? Like, I always believed you, like we had nothing. We had nothing growing up. It's like, you could have done a little bit better, right? And that was always my attitude, probably for the first, I'm going to say 25, 30 years of my life, right? And 30, I keep forgetting how old I am. I'm 37 this year.
Yeah.
And, I always believed, right? Like my mom could have done a better job, but, like what my wife is going through right now with 1 kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of work, right? And I told my wife, I didn't tell her. I mentioned this a few times, right? Because I said these words, like, you sure you want to have a second? Because I'm tired. You've gone through this. You've gone through this before. You know how hard it is to raise 1 kid. And my mom raised 3 kids, right? And she, like, the story my mom told us, right? I was born because my middle brother said he wanted a younger brother or sister. And he was born because my oldest brother wanted a younger brother or sister. There were no other siblings after me because I didn't want a sister, right? Apparently, that's the story, right? And so my mom raised 3 kids, right? And I had mentioned, how long has it been so far? 27 minutes. I mentioned about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
My mom saved a lot.
Yeah.
Her savings rate was probably, first of all, okay, so my mom she didn't have an official mortgage, right? She took a loan from her bank of mom, or my bank of grandma, right?
Yeah.
And so she paid her mom back through basically a family loan, right? To pay for her house and everything, right? So after, I have no idea when that was done, right? But even when that was done, my mom continued to save money, right? To one day for her own retirement and everything, right? And it was that savers mentality that really ingrained into, I'm going to say, all 3 of her kids, right? To have that. No, I'm not going to call it frugal, right? I am. I think I'm frugal, right? Some people say I'm not. Some people say I'm too frugal. I really don't know where I am on the
frugality scale.
I was going to call it on the spending spectrum, but
okay.
I don't know. But I save today, Kendall, about 60% of my take-home pay.
Yeah.
Which is apparently quite high.
It is.
But that's why I want to retire in 10 years. Like, I'm done with this, right? But no, that mentality came from my mom, right? The save first, right? One thing she didn't teach us, and I had this conversation with her 2 or 3 days ago, right? No, she taught us how to save, put away money. She never taught us how to invest money. Right. Okay. There's the lady who invested in 1% bonds, right?
Yeah.
And in her mindset, bonds are great because bonds, back in the 80s, early 80s and 70s, bonds are paying like 18%, right? Yeah. It was the thing to invest in because inflation was like 10 to 18% back then, right? So, I mean, that was the thing to do, right? To, put your money in basically term deposits, bonds at the
Yeah.
end of the day, right? But that didn't change in her mind that, I can guarantee myself 18% or I can guarantee myself 1% 25 years later, right?
Yeah.
So she never taught us how to invest,
Right.
right? But the other thing she never taught us is how to make more money,
Okay.
right? She taught us, go to school,
Yes.
study hard,
Yes.
get a good job,
Yep.
sit at that job for the next 40 years of your life,
Pay your
and
pension.
and retire and get a pension to retire. And if you can, get a government job.
Yes.
Right. At one time, my mom was joking and basically said I should be a gigolo because like apparently they pay really well, right? But and in all seriousness, like my mom basically said, no, get off the farm, right? Get a nice air conditioned job because it's hard to work in the hot sun and everything.
Right.
Get an air conditioned job in an office and basically spend 40 years there, right?
Right.
And basically work a 9 to 5, right?
Right.
So my mom really never taught us how to make more money. It was about saving pennies to make dollars.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And my argument with her was, why save pennies to make a dollar when I can go out and make another $5 somewhere else doing something else?
Right.
Right. And so I really do. She gave me one of the pieces for personal finance.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
She didn't give me the other 2 pieces.
Yeah.
I had to figure those out on my own. And I was lucky to work in accounting because I got to see how a lot of other people did things.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to see the doctors. I got to see the lawyers who made 6 to mid 6 figures.
Yeah.
By mid 6, I mean like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000.
Yeah.
And see what they did with their money.
Yeah.
Right? Which is pretty important. So.
Yeah, and to that point, I think so similarly, I think in my industry, the type of clients I got to work with, and most lately the with kind of the millionaire clients, it's like that change in mentality where you kind of and you learn it in school too, and I just got to see it in real life, which was kind of like
learn it in school.
Yeah, well, I learned about economies of scale, right? Or that.
Sure. Okay, fine.
Well, right, the concept of kind of like specialize, right? Like, hey, everyone in the economy, pick your specialization, and then outsource things that you're not specializing in, right? And
I thought by economies of scale, I thought you meant like buying bulk from Costco.
That too, but this concept of kind of outsourcing work that you're not good at, right? And this, case in point is like cleaners, right? Like, Kaylee wanted like my wife wanted cleaners. Yeah. But I was like, no, like save money, right? Again, save money. My mom's like, no, I had to kind of clean, and so kind of was like, no, like, Haley, you clean or I'll clean. We'll clean. But then we did an analysis, and we're like, wait a minute, like, so do we value our time at, it was like $40 an hour, right? I was like, do we value our time at $40 an hour, or do we value it more? And then we started saying like, no, we value our time more than the $40 an hour that we're paying the cleaner. I think we can generate more value. And then we started kind of, I mean, that's not why we started a cleaner. We started a cleaner because there was less fights in the family, to be completely honest. It was like, she got her way, and then, she felt less tired, and so, we were happier that way.
You have a cleaner today? Like
yes,
now?
I do. Once a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, once a month.
Beautiful.
Once a month, yeah. And that's one thing my parents would always be like, why would you hire like a cleaner?
Yeah.
Like, that's a waste of money, right? But for me, I was kind of like, no, it's the best investment ever because it now frees up, my time and Haley's time to kind of, I mean, we still have to clean to kind of keep the house.
That's the everyday stuff, like wipe down the counter and spills.
But like a deep clean, we get one person, a team of them to come once a month to do it. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is like, why didn't I do this earlier? And then there was this concept of like, okay. And really what cemented it for me was, again, talking about will. So I went to see a lawyer for my will because I wanted to, do more. I mean, I was always depending, again, between cheap and value. I was like, okay, do I go to notary and just kind of get it done? Or, why would I spend more money with the lawyer? And I was interviewing people and kind of got both things. And I was like, no, I want a trust account for my son. I want to kind of write instructions and, one day I do want to have a company and all that. So, it just makes more sense to, start with a lawyer so we can kind of build out that thing. Whereas notary is just kind of the simple kind of like, split half and half and that's it. I'm like, no, I'm not the cookie cutter type. I'm going to go and, kind of have a recipe, so to speak, right?
I know a really good notary though.
Yeah,
you know him too.
Me too. Yeah. And I talked to him. Right? I talked to him, and he tried to be like, I can do it, and I'm like, no, I know you can, but I'm like, just let me go, to this, because he's more of, the real estate transaction. All my real estate stuff goes to him. And he does a fantastic job. I send my people and I, all my family stuff goes to him. Like kudos to him. But yeah, and she was like, yeah, I charged like I think it was 570 an hour, and I think she was the first person to give me like, oh, I've never valued my time like that, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like then a cheap kennel came, I was like, oh my goodness, are you worth 570? And then just like consultation and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, oh, she knows her stuff, and I'm like, this is why she charges her time this way, and that birthed the whole concept of what I'm doing right now, like fee for service. I'm like, yeah, what do I actually value my time at? And basically, like, if I value my time at, at this rate, like right now I value at 125, based on what I charge and stuff and my experience and stuff like that. So I'm like, anything that's kind of like, if it takes me an hour and it costs me less than a 125, to me now it's deemed okay. You know what, I'm gonna spend it because I can go and use that same hour and earn 125, right? And also to your point about mom teaching about kind of this kind of stuff, this was never taught to me, right? About
No, it wasn't.
Getting more, making more money.
You do it yourself.
Yeah,
you do it
yourself. Save the money, cut the cost, coupon, right? Wait for the deal, wait for this. It was never about how do you create more money, generate. And the funniest thing is, I came from an
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Right? I see where you're going. Yeah, okay.
Right? And it's like okay, like and you talk about having a useless dad. Well, I think so too, right? Over here, my dad, thanks to him, he drove us around and all that, but I never had a fatherly figure in my life, and again, the kudos to the mom, 100% kudos to my mom, right? Like she basically had to be, the one that, cooked the meals, changed my diaper, and similar to you, it was kind of like until like, the whole process of raising, my son up, it was kind of like, and the fact that COVID happened, because if it wasn't for COVID, I would have been probably just like my dad, just earn the big bucks and come back and and expect my wife to do everything and try to thank her, but not understand really the whole process. But working from home has allowed me, and I think similar to you, to appreciate, wow, the woman in our lives, right? The key, Mother's Day, the sacrifices they make, and like the amount of stuff they have to do. And now we're more kind of on the trying to be more equal, right? But back then, this was never talked about. It was
20 years ago. It went unnoticed.
Yeah, it was expected that the woman cooked, cleaned, did all that. Like it was like expected. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like she had to do like, and I was trying to search out while you were talking, I couldn't find it. But the value of mothers, right? Like stay-at-home moms. If you were to put a dollar value, it was like something like over $100,000 worth of value of work that they do. They cook, they clean. Like they're a cook, right? They're like a cleaner. They're like a laundromat. They do all these things, right? A caretaker, right?
Well, it's like basically it's hiring a nanny for 16 hours a day.
Yeah, and they work around the clock, right? If they breastfeed, and even if they don't
breastfeed, 365 days, 16 hours at what? $25 to $40 an hour.
Yeah. So there you go, right? You do the math there real quick, and it's like, oh my goodness, that's
but I mean, 20, 30 years ago, these things weren't measured or valued at all, right? Like you said, it's the expectation that the woman in the family took care of these things, right?
Yeah.
And the man, historically always went out and made the bread and came home basically.
And we had it so easy, right? And
we had it easy,
right?
Well, now like I mean, I'm quite involved as a as a parent, I'm gonna say, right?
But I think we're the exception. I think there's more men that are being involved, but I think
nowadays,
right?
in the 2020s,
But I still think there's a lot that are just sitting back and just be like, no, this is an expectation, right? I mean,
certainly there are some, right? We can't say, and we live on the West Coast as well, right? We're quite liberal, on the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
Where I can't say we all male parents get involved, right?
Yeah.
But you and I, right, in at least this conversation are involved.
Yes.
And I think we see, how much our wives at this point, our wives, new mothers, right, are basically sacrificing at this time that we never seen our moms sacrifice. Because as us as kids, it was expected.
Yes.
Right. Mom, when's dinner? Right. It's expected. Mom, I need my black pants because I got a rehearsal at school and they said everyone has to wear black pants. Where are my black pants, Mom? Right? And back then it was it's the expectation, right? That those things were provided. But no, I see my wife going through, the crap she's going through now over the last, 2.5 months with our newborn, like the sacrifices she's making. And I can say the same thing that your wife, the sacrifice she made raising, your son as well.
Yep.
It's crazy,
yes.
Right? The mental, emotional, physical suffering that they go through.
Yep.
We too as well, but
yes.
I would say not to the same extent.
No.
Right?
No.
If my excuse is, right, I work 16 hours a day.
Right.
I'm tired, right? And there will be times like I will try every night to do the 1 o'clock. Like we do 1, 4, 7, 10 feedings, right?
Yep.
And I will try to do 1 a.m. feeding,
yep.
right? Every night. I will try, right?
Yep.
Because I usually go to bed at like 2 a.m., right? There's no excuse for me not to do it. But, and she will, for the most part, my wife will cover 4 a.m. feeding, right? Kudos for her. That is a shitty time to cover, right?
Yes.
And I truly do try to cover 7 a.m.
Yes.
But there will be times I basically just sleep right through it.
Right.
Right? I am just too tired.
Yep.
And my wife has to cover.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the baby will be crying and screaming.
Yep.
And I will not hear it. Right? And that is the sacrifice that she basically has to make. Like she gets 1.5 hour naps, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe 3 times a day. Right?
Yeah.
Like she's probably sleeping, 3, 4, maybe 5 hours a day in total.
Yeah.
Right. Raising this kid at this point. Right.
Yeah.
The toll that my wife, I knew mom, basically incurs at this point. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Like the amount of work and I think that's why this episode is dedicated to the moms out there and us dads appreciate it. At least 2 dads, and hopefully, the husbands and the husband, your husbands are going to do something nice for you. And I don't know, maybe later on in the episode we can kind of share some ideas for those last minute husbands, because I know they're out there. And I don't know, maybe I mean, like we always do current events and stuff like that. I mean, this might be a good time where. I'm just gonna share like this article.
Go for it.
From Motherly, right? Like these 5 things, that this dad kind of was like, 5 things he would tell his pre-children self on how to support his future wife, while she becomes a mother and how.
You can share it if you want.
Yeah. I'm sharing my screen, so I think they're seeing it. So,
oh.
Yeah. Maybe I should just share a screen. You mean? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. There we go.
Yeah. So, number 1. This is a Facebook post that this, I think this guy's called Ted Gonder. I'm now 29 and have 3 kids with my wife who carried and birthed them all like a pro. Here's what I would tell my childless 24-year-old self about how to be supportive partner.
Okay, so 5-year difference here. Okay, so 24 to 29. Okay.
That's right. During the becoming parents phase. Okay, so number 1. Wifey carried baby in her belly for 9 months. So you carry baby on your belly for 9 months every chance you get. Not only does it help her recover, but it bonds you to your kid more than imaginable. Number 2. True. I mean, do you want to talk point by point, or should I read everything and then we talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk point by point. Sure. Otherwise we'll get lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
My wife carried for 7 months, so we had a preemie. 33 weeks, 33 weeks, 33 and 2. But it was a funny story. I came home with fried chicken. She was in labor on the way home. She was in labor all day, basically, but she didn't know she was in labor because it was 33 weeks.
Right.
And I came home with fried chicken, and I had to pick between driving her to the hospital or eating fried chicken. She actually asked me, aren't I going to eat dinner first? And I said, no, we're going to the hospital. Right? But carrying it on your belly, for every chance you can get. That tummy time is so important.
Yes.
to raise your kid, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, for those out there who don't know, if they, for you probably know, Kennel, like that tummy time or even chest time,
Yes.
right? Your kid will actually enjoy chest time as opposed to being on their backside,
Yes.
um, because they got poop pains. And they have less poop pains when they're on their stomach side.
Yep.
At least for my kid, anyways. I think it's no the general consensus from what I read on the internet. The poop pains are less when they're front side on you, right? And it's more enjoyable as well. It's just that you can't really do anything when they're on you.
Yep.
That's
But
basically it.
yeah, and that's the one stage that I really miss, and like had I read this article, I guess earlier, I echo it 100%. It's like when I did have those, tummy times, it was, I mean, and back then I was more kind of like I gotta work, so I wasn't
Sure.
as kind of calm and kind of like slow down and kind of be more of a human being. I was more of a human doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the new dads, like this, yeah, this is time. These are moments that like my clients talk about. Is like, yeah, I wish I did this. Like this is one of them that I think it will be
Yeah.
top because it was top for me. It's like, man, and this is kind of this kind of makes me want to have like a second one, which hopefully it comes to pass. And Brandon, I get you. The phase that you're in, me and my wife were the same. We're like, what? We're thinking of two, and we're like, no, that's it. One is enough. And it was not
One
until
one and done. One
one
and
and
done,
done,
right?
yeah. And it wasn't until really recently, as our son has really kind of matured, if I can put it that way, or
He's
kind of
3 now, right?
he's
Your
turning
son?
3
Yeah.
in about 4 days. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so he's at this like super fun, and my friends warned me. He's like, you'll get to a point where like you'll want another one. I'm like, you're crazy. I'm like, I don't know, you don't know like what I'm going through. He's like, no, I know exactly what you're going through. He's like, I know you, Kendall. Like, you're gonna have a second. I'm like, no, you're
Sure.
crazy. I'm like, I thought so too, but I'm like, this stage is horrible, right? It's horrible, but yeah, we're in this like reflective moment now where we're like, oh, like it's not wasn't that bad. Like, oh, we missed this, right?
And a lot
And
of people tell me that actually.
yeah, and this is the stage, like if I have a quote unquote do over, like yeah, that next baby is gonna be always on like my chest, and it's almost
Sure.
like, yeah, you know what, like I'm gonna have it for 9 months, and
Yeah.
just lay on me, right? Lay on
Yeah.
me.
They're really content when they do. And,
Yes.
I wouldn't say it feels good. I have no chest at all. I'm pretty, like, I have Asian flat chest syndrome as a guy. And,
Dad bod,
like,
man. You have a, I don't know. You have a belly. I have a belly, so it's
no,
like
I don't. I don't have a belly.
okay, well, I do, and so there's that kind of
Like, I've been
complex.
consistent 152 pounds for the last 2 years now because I haven't been going out to eat, right?
Good for you.
But no, my chest is basically, it's like sleeping on a rock. Like, I have no pecs at all. And like the difference between my kid sleeping on my wife and my kid sleeping on me, 10
Night and
times
day.
over, he'll prefer to sleep on my wife, right?
Yeah.
Due to the cushiness, right? But like spending time with your kid with that
Yeah.
chest time, tummy time, it's you only get that for so long before that time expires.
Yeah.
I agree with point one.
Yeah. I lay him on my final points before we go to point two. I try to lay, my son on my chest now. He's like my whole body length, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And so now what I do is like I can still put him on my shoulders, right? And so I maximize that time because I'm like, there will
Sure.
become a time when he's like either like daddy no more, or he's just too heavy, right? He's almost probably he's 30 plus pounds now.
Sure.
And Haley's like, yeah, like, oh, I can't carry him. I wish I can, but he's too heavy, right?
It's too big now. Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is why I worked out. I'm like, I want to just, until 50 or whatever this pounds he may be, I want to just carry because I'm like, yeah, there will be a moment when it's just like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So number two, wifey is
Okay.
breastfeeding, and while beautiful and fulfilling for her, is exhausting. So
I agree.
you change every diaper you can. From diaper number 1 onward, you will get over the grossness fast, and you will prevent imbalances and resentment in the relationship. In fact, when all your wife's friends are complaining about how absent and unsupportive their husbands are, your wife will be bragging about you.
I agree. Um, I mean, I don't change them all,
Yeah.
right? I change the ones that I can.
Yes.
I got okay. Let's just go from the beginning. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So our kid doesn't breastfeed.
Mm.
He only bottles, right?
Right.
And he bottles because he was born preemie,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And he was no, he was in NICU,
Yeah.
neonatal intensive care,
Yeah.
for 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
And so when he's in there, he's getting bottle fed,
Right.
right? So he only knows how to bottle feed,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so, it's not as easy for my wife to directly feed, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She has to pump first
Yes.
and then basically put it in a bottle,
Yeah.
feed him, because that's the only way he'll eat, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically double the time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's what makes it exhausting for her. I don't feel it at all, right? Because
Yeah.
all I have to do is take the bottle, heat it up, feed,
Yeah.
right? And that's something, as a something. No, if I was not a father, I wouldn't understand that,
Mhm.
right? Change every diaper you can. I try to,
Yeah.
right? We change, before feed 8 times a day,
Yeah.
roughly, if not more, right? It's not gross. It is gross, but like they said, you'll get over it quite quickly. I don't know, Ken. I'll ask you the question.
Yeah.
Like, how involved were you in this number two?
Super involved. I mean, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't say change every diaper. I didn't change every diaper, similar to you.
Yeah, sure.
But I was involved as much as I possibly can, and that involved we had I think a 2, a 5, and a 8 a.m. feed. So I
2,
did
5, 8, 11.
yeah
2, 5, 8, 11.
yeah
Yeah,
every 3 hours, right? So I did the 2 and the 5.
that's
But
hard.
the thing was, yeah, and I was working full time as well. What angered me at the time was like I'm like, okay, I'm doing this, but then like she will still get up, right? I'm like, I just want you to rest, right? Like I'm doing this so that you can rest. Like why are you up? And she's like, well, because my boob hurts if I don't pump out
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
milk,
That's
right?
right. Yeah,
And so
yeah.
she did breastfeed, and I was like, okay, like I was kind of like, okay, if it's so hard, like it's okay, right? I was like, just bottle feed, it's fine. But like like my wife just has this like this like you call it stubbornness, you call it persistence. Like she just really wanted the best for our son, and so no matter how hard it was, she would do it. I didn't understand it at the time, right? I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm doing this for you so you can rest, so that you have the energy in the morning. Like you're doing the opposite of like we're both now tired. We're both like running to the ground, and I'm like, you don't even need me to wake up. Like you can just do this all on your own, kind of thing, and right.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think this point about every diaper, I think really what we want to take from it is like just be support, like
Just be there.
just
Be
there.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that Haley kind of told me every time was like, yeah, even that water you brought me, like in at nighttime, or that diaper you can grab me, like every little thing that you think that at that point I didn't think it mattered. She told me no, it mattered 100%, right? It was like, yeah, the smallest action, but it was like big brownie points every time I did something like that. And so I think, for point number 2 is just like be supportive, right? Just look for
Yeah.
things to do, and don't just kind of, I mean, I was bad at this. I was always like, Haley, tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, right? And
Sure.
she's like, just go figure it out, right? I'm like, I don't know how to figure it out. Like, what am I
No,
supposed
I'm
to
just
do?
as guilty. I'm just as guilty. Quite frankly, I know how to do once I'm shown the first time,
Exactly.
but I would never be able to go figure it out myself
No.
the first time.
No.
Like
Yeah.
that's maybe my fault.
Yeah.
And no, I rely on my wife, to explain it to me.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like I'm not sure if she taught me. Did she? The nurse in the neonatal unit taught me how to change the diaper.
Right.
My wife taught me how to change the diaper properly. Because every time I was changing the diaper, it was leaking.
Oh, you didn't
Right?
fluff it out? Is that?
No, I didn't fluff it out.
Yeah,
That's the
there
thing.
you go.
So my wife was like, "Do you fluff it out?" I was like, "What do you mean fluff it out?" Right? So no, like now, like once I'm showing,
Yeah.
once I do things the right way,
Yeah.
that once I get it, I got it, right?
Yeah.
But I'll never figure it out the first time.
Yeah.
And, that's me being, I wouldn't call myself unsupportive,
No.
but ignorant maybe.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would call yeah. I think I'd call
Yeah,
myself
and
ignorant.
to the new moms and wives out there, just tell the husbands and the dads, like, just tell us, please, like, Just we don't know, right? Like if we know you, we want to be supportive. We want to be. We're just like I guess for lack of a better word, we're just dumb. We try to Google, we
Well,
try to figure it out, but it's just we don't know.
my problem is though, and I'm not going to use this as a defense,
Right.
right? I'm the youngest grandchild in my family,
Mm.
and so there was no one after me to take. Like I didn't need to take care of anyone.
Yeah.
In fact, everyone took care of me.
Right.
So if anyone spoiled in my family,
Yeah.
everyone would call me spoiled. I don't think, no, my opinion, I don't think I was spoiled.
Right.
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 I don't think I got the best.
Right.
Again, my opinion.
Yeah.
But for me to address,
Yeah.
like I didn't know how to do anything because I didn't need to
Right.
learn these things growing up.
Right.
Right. Whereas my wife, like she took care of, friends' kids, cousins'
Yeah.
kids, whatever. Like she
Yeah.
had so much experience.
Yeah.
When I found that out, I relied on her to be the expert.
Yes.
And monkey see, monkey do.
Yep.
I see, I learn.
Yep.
And I learn from her. And that's just my situation though.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I can't say that all men out there should have that excuse.
Yeah.
But that's my excuse anyways.
Well, I mean,
it's not a good excuse.
I was the oldest. So the flip side of that, I was on the other side of the chain.
Sure.
So I would, people will say I'm spoiled, and I think so because I was like the only baby in my family. So like my grandpa, I was like a male, and
Sure.
and I was like the only kind
The
of child,
oldest?
the
You're the
oldest in the
oldest,
family
yeah.
for like the
Sure.
first 2 years before my
Okay.
cousin kind of came to be. So I got all the toys. I remember pictures. I don't actually remember
Sure.
driving it, but seeing pictures of me driving, the BMWs of the times, like those toy cars. I was like, we had a
Sure.
pool in the background, and yeah, all the uncles and aunts would like surround me and just like play with me. So like, I just got all the attention in the world, because I was the only one.
Yeah.
Similar to my son right now, right? Like he's the only great grandchild right now. So he's.
Yeah.
I mean, minus COVID, so it's not like we had a lot of gatherings and stuff. But each kind of family gathering we have, like everyone's playing with them, right? I mean, again,
Sure.
my cousin's baby is coming soon, and
Yeah.
I mean they're out in Victoria, so still locally he's like the only great grandchild, so
Yeah.
he gets all the attention and stuff. But yeah, yeah. So I also was clueless. And that I think for me was just again a lack of attentiveness, and not on purpose. I think it's just growing up. It was, I was just never attention to detail, right? And
Yeah.
my wife is always like, yeah, how come you can't read my mind? I'm like, well, I'm not a mind reader.
I'm bad. I
Yeah.
expect my wife to read my mind.
Yeah, yeah,
But but I'm very bad at it.
Yeah.
Like to the extent, like I'm glad my wife forgives me
yes.
for a lot of this, but
Mhm.
I'm very passive aggressive.
Ooh,
And I have the expectation that she can read my mind. And when she can't,
yeah,
like I get upset,
Yes.
right? But that's completely my fault.
right.
And, she's forgiven me for the past 10 years. I know I need to stop it. And
Yes.
she even tells me, it's like, Brandon, you have to talk to me. You need
Yes.
to communicate, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I recognize it.
yeah.
Am I improving on it?
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'll have to reassess, right?
Yeah.
But I recognize I address it to be a concern,
Yeah.
right?
And awareness
yeah.
is the first step to change. So good on you for
Sure.
saying that. Because
Guilty. I'm guilty.
Yeah, I'm guilty as well, right? I've been called out many times, or called in, if that's a lack of a better term.
Yeah.
About it, right? He's like, "Why are you passive aggressive?" And guess who I got that from? My mom. She's super passive aggressive. And so I picked up everything from her, right? Like all the habits and stuff, because you pick up things from her.
Yeah.
You just as a child, you just kind of you learn monkey see monkey do, like you just said earlier.
Yeah.
You just it's not like they taught you to be passive aggressive. You just kind of
you kind of mimic their
Yes.
personality,
Yeah.
right?
yeah
And my snarkiness came from my mom, right? My quickness came
Yeah.
from my mom, right?
Yeah.
My sarcasm came from my mom, right? Mentally, I think I'm more like my mom. Physically, I look like my dad.
Right.
I wouldn't say identical. Like my oldest brother looks a lot like my dad. But my mental capacity is like, I wouldn't say a split image. It's not a split image.
Right.
But it was highly influenced to, you know, how my mom, demonstrated herself.
Yep.
And, I saw what she did. And I would say I copied most of the good pieces.
Yep.
But I've also taken the bad parts of her as well.
Right. Yep. 100%.
To what I think is bad.
Yeah. And then we learn to reparent ourselves as we're parents. At least that's what I'm learning. It's like, oh, well, this, yeah, it kind of worked, but I'm like, no, actually, there might be a better way to do it, and stuff. So, point number 3.
Point number 3. Let's keep going. There's 2 more after this.
Yeah. Make her the decaf coffee every morning, even if she leaves it cold and forgets to drink it most mornings because she falls back asleep while you're working or later taking the kids to school. She was up all night feeding the baby, so help start her day in a way that helps her reset.
My wife doesn't drink decaf. Well, my wife doesn't drink coffee.
Yeah. Tea?
She'll drink tea, right?
Juice?
Water? My wife drinks juice.
Yeah.
She's basically just flavored sugar water all day. I pick on her about that, right?
Yeah.
But I understand this, right? I mean, in my situation, my wife, she doesn't work right now, right? She's raising the baby, right?
Yeah.
She basically, put a pause on her business and everything, right? So for the most part, I mean, we feed the baby, whoever feeds the baby at 7 a.m., whether it's me or, my wife at that point, my wife will basically sleep in until, 8, 9, or 10 o'clock after that, right? And we're bad in the sense that, once I get up out of my side of the bed, I will put my baby on my side of the bed. Like I won't put him back in the bassinet, right? And he will sleep in our bed, facing up, no complaints, because it's warm. Because I got out of bed, right?
Yeah.
And he'll sleep there for 3 hours, and my wife will sleep there, until she gets up, basically, right? I understand this article. No, I agree with it. Yeah. I think I'm in a fortunate situation where we both work at home right now.
Right.
I can't say everyone else has that luxury.
Yeah.
Right? And no, I agree with it. I wouldn't say. Maybe it goes back to what you were mentioning about getting Haley water in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
It's just the little things. Do anything, right? Try to let her sleep, right? As much as she can, because the rest of the day is gonna suck.
Yep.
Right. If you have milk in the fridge, you heat it up as a guy. Heat it up, feed the baby if you can. Just that extra, if they can get 3 or 4 hours continuous sleep, that helps so much at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's those thoughts that count. Like, if it's not coffee, like Haley's more milk tea, so it'll be milk tea for her. But it's just even little notes. I think just kind of like, hey, acknowledgement. I think we went through a phase where we're like, hey, I just want to be acknowledged for what I did last night because our son was up, and it's just writing those like love notes, saying like, hey, I acknowledge that you were up last night, and thank you, and thank you for giving me the rest on fully recharged, and then it's kind of like, how do I help you, and being a team. I think sometimes as new parents, we forget we're a team. And at least like for Haley and I, like we were always kind of just doing our own thing, and our first project together was our son, and so it was a mess in the beginning. She had her way, I had mine, and it was like, okay, this is not gonna work. And now I think we're starting to learn and know our quirks. Like we know our weaknesses, and we will just press it, right? We'll just we know this is the button. We're like push it. We're gonna push it and push it. But now we're like, I mean, I can't speak for her, but for me, I'm like, okay, I know this is the button I can push, but I'm like, I choose not to because we're on a team, we're on the same team. So if she's angry, it's just bad chemistry for the team. Like, how do I not press it, but also, to that point about passive aggressive, right? It's like, okay, she doesn't know what I'm thinking. I'm just gonna tell her. And I'm gonna say, this upsets me, or this makes me sad, and really, put the emotions in. That's what my, psychologist like, not told, but like recommended, is like, start with I statements, right? Instead of, oh, you didn't do this and you didn't do that and you. We're both learning to say, like, well, I felt this when this happened, and I felt this when that happened, and it's so powerful. Like, it's just the way that we're communicating now. It's like, we're doing the dance differently, is what kind of she said. And I don't think it would have happened if we didn't have a child together. I think we would have just kind of done our own thing, and just kind of bury the stuff, and kind of move on with life. But with a kid, you just you need the other partner. Like,
it's so hard to do it alone.
Yeah.
Right. And I just had a story of I'm just gonna leave it very generic, of a person I know, right? Okay. Just so that person can't be identified.
Yeah.
Single mom.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how single moms do it.
Yeah. No,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, this person, she had a kid, and 2 weeks later, her partner left her, and she doesn't even look back at this point anymore. Basically, she was able to raise a kid on her own. This person's much older now. Her kid's, I think, like 17 or 18 at this point, right? But I mean, as a single mom, I don't know how they do it in a society like this. It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, to imagine a single mom with no help, has to pay rent, has to pay for daycare. Like, how do they do it?
Yeah.
Right. And there are single moms out there. Right. It's crazy how they're able to manage without melting down.
Yep. Yeah, no. And kudos to those moms out there, if you're listening. Like, we know. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. We can only imagine, right? how tough.
But having a partner in, it's a joint project at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And it's just easier, having that extra hand.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And
that's all. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, no, because like we couldn't have done it. We had each other, but we also had our parents, and if our parents were out of the equation, like, I have some friends who are like, it's just the two of them.
I don't have parents in this project.
Yeah.
I was hoping, right? But I don't know the real reason, right? At the end of the day, but it's just myself and my wife, right? And we were thinking of a nanny, actually.
Yeah.
Which is why I asked you, half an hour ago, like, do you actually hire a cleaner, right?
Yes.
And when you said yes, I was like, oh, great, right?
Yeah.
But no, we were thinking of bringing on a live-in nanny, actually.
Yes.
We have a spare bedroom.
Yeah.
Just empty, right?
Yeah.
But my wife actually does not want. No, my wife doesn't want to live in. Does not want a nanny.
Oh, what?
No, my wife does not want a nanny.
Wow.
And I'm not saying no. I'm not blaming her for not wanting a nanny.
Yeah.
One, she is scared of an outsider bring COVID into the house.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Real possibility.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're vaccinated,
right?
Of course,
but the baby the baby isn't. Yeah.
Well, there still is the possibility that we still catch. I mean, the vaccine's not 100%, right?
That's right.
And if anything, as time goes by, it's less and less effective. But that's another story. But so she didn't want an outsider with the possibility of bringing COVID in the house, because if I go down, geez, the ship sinks, man. And not only that, like, at the end of the day, I think there's a sense of security, a sense of privacy of having someone in your house all the time.
Fair enough.
She didn't want that, right? Even though
how was it day to day then? Like, just to help her, because I mean, for if we're gonna have a second one, like, that's one ask that Haley has asked, and I'm like, let's build a team around you, right? Because before I was too cheap. I was like, no, we're not gonna spend this money. But after going through what we went through the first time around, we're like, no. I'm like, this is money well spent, and I'm like, anything to do anything to make her feel like a queen, because that's what she needs for the next, at least the first 100 days, if not longer. Because it's just tough, right? Like,
but it's difficult. You got to think. I think we're in a fortunate enough situation that we can afford to buy help. Right.
Yeah.
Average person, though, right? Who's and I go back. Person who's making $60,000, right?
Yep.
And if they're paying, two couples
Yep.
have a mortgage, right? Pay, and I'm gonna say they're making $60,000 each. They have a mortgage. They got that down payment. They're paying $2,500 a month.
Yep.
And they're hiring a full-time nanny because both those individuals are going out to work, right? How do you afford a full-time nanny? And let's just say the nanny's, on average, just to say $30 an hour, right? Full-time, 40 hours a week, 160 hours a month at $30 an hour. That's like $4,000, $4,800 roughly.
Yeah.
Like, how do you? I mean, at $60,000, you're only bringing in $5,000. How do you pay $4,800 to a full-time nanny? Right,
side hustle. Hello,
side hustle, gig work, and what?
Uber. Right? We just gotta be Uber driving.
Or you just don't have a full time nanny, right? Maybe you have a nanny for 2 or 3 days a week, right? Whatever's feasible, right? But it like for new parents out there, it's not always an avenue that they can take, right?
No, and we didn't take it for our first one, but I'm just saying, like for the value. That a nanny would bring. I don't think full time 100%.
It definitely helps a mom having that extra help. Even though and it doesn't need to be full time. It can just be it can even be 4 hours, 3 times a day. Or, 3 days a week type of thing, right? Just to have someone come in, clean the dishes for that day, right? Vacuum for that day, right? Do laundry for that day, right? It doesn't need to be whatever, right? But just to have that extra help can certainly help a mom, right? And that's just my 2 bits. But no nanny at this point.
No, that's fair. But
what's number 4?
Number 4 is tell her she is beautiful and help her see that in the moments when she is feeling most self-critical and hopeless about her body. Remind her of the times when she achieved goals in the past. Remind her she is a superhero. She literally just moved all her organs around and gained 20 kilograms to give you a child that will be a gift to you for the rest of your life. Help her see past her body image issues and stay focused on the positive goal, one day at a time.
I can go first on this one.
Sure.
I don't think. Well, okay. So as of today, our boy is sick today. She's losing hair from stress.
Yes.
For having to deal with the baby right now.
Yeah.
That's one point.
Yeah.
I've what did I say? I said, have you been eating your biotin and your vitamin E? Well, oh God, I feel like a jerk now. Okay. In this pregnancy, my wife didn't gain that much weight.
Right.
She didn't put on, it says 40 pounds here, right?
Yeah.
She put on 10 pounds, 5 kilograms.
Yeah.
During her whole pregnancy, right? Granted, our boy was born at 4.25 pounds.
Right.
Okay, so he wasn't that big.
Yeah.
And then after she had the baby, she ended up losing. She basically, her weight was below when she first got pregnant. After.
Right.
So she went like a little bit up, all the way down, and then she normalized afterwards. So she didn't put on that much. She as of today, she's the same. Right. I don't remind her she's a superhero. Maybe I should. Oh no, not maybe. Probably I should. She has sacrificed quite a bit. Or no, not my wife. All moms out there have sacrificed quite a bit, right? To bear this baby.
Yep.
To give you a gift for the rest of your life, sure. Sure, if you want to call it that.
They are gifts, though. They are.
I've heard one of my clients call their kids insurance policies. Which is terrible. Yeah, it's terrible, right?
And the other one is assets, right? It's like, well, you're my retirement plan. That's another one.
If you want to call it that, right? Yeah. I think it really differs from person to person, right? every day I ask my wife if she's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And not from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I think, I keep, every day I ask her, it's like, have you gone crazy yet? Are you, is this kid making you crazy, right?
Yeah.
I think the physical beauty, I think it makes this a little, I don't know. I think it depends how important the woman thinks physical beauty is, right?
Yes.
No, I've been with my, at that time, girlfriend, now wife, for the last 10 years now.
Right.
How she looks, I accept.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. How she looks like in the next 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't care. I accept it. Right.
Yeah.
How she is mentally and emotionally
Yeah.
at this point
Yeah.
is much more important to me.
Yes.
I can't say if that's important to her. If
Yeah.
maybe, some moms out there really value the physical beauty.
Right.
From a man's perspective, I want to make sure, all her marbles up there are still okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's to me is what's important. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But no, every person's different.
Yeah, but and I think to this point is 100%. But I mean, like, where does beauty come from? And I think beauty comes from kind of that self confidence and kind of that.
It does.
It lies. It all ties back to the mental capacity, right? So maybe she doesn't feel she's beautiful at the moment physically. Then we can talk about kind of the emotional beauty and the mental beauty and the mental toughness, right? That superhero, the goals. And again, I wish I read this article kind of when I was a new dad, because Haley made 5 figures a month in salary at one point, right? She had a lot of people under her business. She hit her goal. She had a BMW. She had all these things. And I didn't pull that stuff up. I pulled out other stuff, like, you're not doing this enough. You're not doing that enough. Why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? I dragged her down, and, I feel terrible.
You were Asian dad before you were even a dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that you're being Asian dad to your partner?
Yeah, and to my son, right? Like, you talked about, poop pains. Well, I was that tough dad where, like, he's like 2 months. I'm like, how come you're not walking yet, son? Like, how come you're not crawling yet? Like, come on, right? And we were watching our old videos back, because we have it all on our phone and stuff. And then, we were giggling a little bit, at the tonality and how tough I was on my son. It's like,
sure.
Come on, Cohen, you can do this. Like, turn around now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, all this pressure. I'm like, you wonder where, kids get pressure, and like, why are they so anxious, by the time they're 5 or 6? It's like, well, hello, the parents are probably, putting this, they just want the best for the kid, good intention.
I think that's the intent, right? Yeah, good intentions, but a lot of pressure, right?
But then the pressure is kind of the side effects of all this. And, again, to this point of moving all her organs, and you can only imagine, like, I never had to move any organs, but no, this baby grows even at, 4 pounds. I think my son was about 6, 7.
Sure.
Sure. And I don't know if your wife did, but my wife, near the end of kind of near term, like her feet was like all like jumbo.
The swollen feet.
The swollen feet, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my goodness, I don't recognize myself anymore. The stretch marks and all that sort of stuff. And similar, right? Like I think she's beautiful. I don't tell her that enough times. But
I don't tell my wife that at all. I'm a jerk.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I don't think many men do, right? And and I think it's just those little comments. It doesn't have to be beautiful, right? Like, don't fake it, right? Like, don't say it because it's like,
no, there are times like like there are times she'll put on these red glasses, and I'll basically say, you look really good in these red glasses, but only in these red glasses.
Oh man.
She has these really round glasses.
Yeah.
I just hate. I hate. I'll tell her, like, these look awful.
Yeah, and I'm sure they appreciate the honesty, right? Like, I don't think they see through the superficial stuff, and so it's just that honest kind of, again, those comments. And even though we accept them, like, tell them that, like
Yeah.
oh yeah, like, it's not like, not like they just need those reminders. I think just like, we need reminders too that we're loved and, we're important, just as we remind our kids,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
as human beings. I think that's kind of what it is. It's just, you're important in my life and I cherish you. And, how can I make your day beautiful, right? How
Yeah.
can I make you,
Absolutely.
feel beautiful, right? Or
Sure.
feel positive, for the
Yeah.
from the mental capacity. So, yeah, that's kind of my part for number four. And number
Sure.
five, final
Last
part,
bullet.
and then I will, yeah, I'll take lead on this one, and you can wrap up on this, and then we can, spend the next 30 talking about, or I guess in closing, with, I guess, activities or gifts ideas or something like that. So number five, take the heat. Hormones are crazy, both pre and post birth. She won't seem like herself every day, and sometimes she will say things she wouldn't say if she didn't feel like she was hungover, caffeinated, or on steroids every day. Remember, your job is to be her rock through all of this, so toughen up and keep perspective when her tongue is sharper than you know her best self intents. Normal will return soon, and you want her to be grateful that you kept it together when she wasn't, not resentful and disappointed that you hijacked her emotions by making her problem yours. Yeah, so for this, guilty as charged. I totally forgot about the hormones, and I would blame her. I'm like, why are you saying this? This is so mean. And no consideration for hormones whatsoever as the potential cause.
Yeah.
So yeah, guilty, and yeah, I need to learn to take the heat because I just apply more heat. I add fuel to the fire, and that's probably why we have arguments sometimes. Is she's not feeling the best, and I'm not cognizant at all. She'll never bring it up that she's she will maybe like and periods and all, but yeah, like they just there's these things called hormones, and I got to remind myself every time. It's like, yeah, this time will pass. She has the best interests at heart, and she does, right? Every time we miss each other, like our communication, it's like we forget that, like, we actually, we are actually putting each other first. But we think that we're all self-interested and conceited and all that, but we're not.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's where we kind of gotta come in as men and kind of be that rock, right? We just gotta, be what is that saying, like cold veins or something like that, like just rock veins or something like that, and just be like, let it pass. It's just not just emotions. It is emotions. Acknowledge the emotions, and that's what I find. Sometimes it's that, like, it's not like she's asking me for all these opinions and stuff, but really what she's really asking is just for me to hold the space and to acknowledge that I'm listening, and she's just having a lot of thoughts going on, and just acknowledge and be like, yes, I hear that a lot of things are going on. I hear this, I hear that, and not to solve the problem for her, because she is
Yeah.
capable. But I always fall into Mr. Fix It and be like, oh, I got the solution for that, and come up with like 5 items, and she kind of looks at me and like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. But I'm like, you just asked me for an opinion. I thought you were asking for how to resolve this. And she's like, no,
Sure.
that's not what I'm asking for. And really, I think what she was asking for is just like, can you just listen to me? Like, I'm like, and I'm listening to you. Like, I can point, recite what you just said. And it's like, no, 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 really listen to me. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not really listening to you? And I think what it is just holding space for emotions, and similarly, that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah.
And when she's kind of going off like a firecracker, now I just kind of, I'm like, I'll sit and listen, right? And so I just don't talk, and she'll just like, bang 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 bang, try and make me talk. And I just hold the space. I mean, that's part one of it. I think part two would be like, acknowledging, but I couldn't, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm super angry right now, and so I'm like just like this angry face, but I'm like, I'm just listening. And then she's like, oh, this is very, like, she'll tell me after the fact. She's like, actually, Kendall, this is very therapeutic, because normally you'll talk so much, I don't have a chance to talk. But the fact that you just learn to shut up and just like listen, and actually lets me kind of, speak my mind and process stuff. I'm like, great, all right. Step one is just shut up and listen, not look for the solution. So yeah, that's my take on that point. Is just, just sometimes, less is more, and in this case, just, breathe and tell, your wife and the mother of your child, it's okay. I'm listening. I'm here for you. And yeah, this too shall pass.
I think this whole hormonal thing, my wife is more stable than I am. No, she's been great, quite frankly. Like, she's been more of the rock than both of us. I mean, I don't have a defense for this. Like, I work 16 hours a day, right? And when I need my sleep, I need my sleep. And, if I get woken up at, if we go to bed at 2 o'clock and I get woken up at 2:30 because, the kid has to eat or poop or whatever, right? She's been more solid than I have been. So kind of kudos to her, right? Yeah. At the end of the day. But, I think much to what you had to say, like, I haven't needed to take the heat. She has not exploded. No, she's not an explosive person.
Oh, good.
She will every now and then. Like, I'm gonna say like once every 3 years.
Wow.
She might explode.
Yeah.
Right. But generally my my spouse is I wouldn't call her emotionless. Right. Mm-hmm. She's just very good at putting up with me. In handling pre-child and post-child. Right. And we were pretty fortunate. I think, okay, yeah. I can't confirm this. I think she handled postpartum very well. Mm-hmm. I think, right? And to that, I'm going to say we were lucky in the sense that, that we had good balance on that. But, at the end of the day, I think, I'm pretty thankful for, her being more emotionally stable than I am throughout the last 2.5 months with this kid.
Yeah.
At this point, right? But my mom had to do it. Your mom had to do it. Yes. Our wives had to do it. Right? Where they have basically needed to put in a lot of effort. Right? Again, huge toll on their brains and bodies to raise us, right? Yes. Or to raise our children at the end of the day. Yeah. It's a real kudos to them, because I'll tell you, Kendall, I had no idea how when we were in the process of having a kid. Yeah, I basically said it's going to be easy, right? This is not. I mean, I had up to that point I had 2 dogs, right, and raising puppies, so easy, right, and raising puppies so rewarding, right. And when it came to let's have a kid, it's like we're gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna raise a human being. Right? Yeah. This is gonna be easy. Oh God, it was not easy. It has not been easy. My wife, right, and probably my mom, right. At least the way in this environment I grew up with, where my dad never changed our diapers. That's what my mom said. Mm-hmm. My dad did not change a single one of our diapers. And, my mom, kudos to her for, having to put up 9 years, not 9 years, probably 12 years of diaper changing. Yep. Right. From my oldest brother being, I don't know. I have no idea when I was poop trained. I think I was poop trained pretty late, like 3 or 4, probably 3. Yep. Not 4, because I know I was going to preschool by 4. Right. I say 2 or 3. Yeah. But I was a late learner, so I was probably one of those dumb kids. But I don't think I would be as far, without the life lessons that my mom taught me. Yep. Right? And granted, I'm not taking everything my mom had to teach me, because not everything my mom taught me is right. Right. My mom taught me so many crap stories. One of the biggest ones that I told my wife this. If you go out in the this is one of those old Chinese wives' tales type of things. If you go out in the rain and your hair gets rained on, if you don't have an umbrella, your hair gets rained on, you will get lice. Okay. I will never tell this story to my kid. Right? I told this story to my wife, and my wife would give the biggest WTF. Yeah. Right? You get your hair doesn't suddenly get wet and lice doesn't fall out of the sky and suddenly they just appear in your hair. And like, no, that doesn't happen, right? But like, there are good things I learned from my mom. There are terrible things I learned from my mom,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But I value each and every one of them, right?
Yeah.
And I took all the good. Ideally, I think I took most of the good things,
Yeah.
and it's become me at this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. No, nothing comes to mind right now, but no, yeah, those are very ridiculous, but yeah, don't know where they come from, but they're interesting. It's like, oh yeah, don't do this.
How influential was your mom in terms of of your personal finance today? Like, how impactful was she?
Like, I think it was because of the lack of knowledge of personal finances
Mm-hmm.
that inspired me to become a financial planner.
Yeah,
And so it was because, I mean, the story goes, right, and is that my dad took me out. I was 18, I think, at the time, 17, 18, and took
sure.
me out to lunch with his financial planner at the time. And then I was like, oh, this is cool, right? Like, this guy pays for lunch, and you just talk to clients about the market. And I was interested in the markets at the time, and it's like, oh, it's just, you can do this for a living, and it's like a financial planner. So it was
Mhm.
always at the back of my mind. And then when my dad, the business kind of slowed down. So of course, I didn't know at the time, but now I do it. It's because he became a smaller client because he wasn't a business client anymore. So
Sure.
he actually told my dad to be like, "Oh, transfer your assets out," and so I took it to TD at the time. But then that was kind of like my warning bell to be like, okay, well, if his assets are not going to be enough and it's probably going to dwindle as he goes into retirement years, then
Hmm.
I need to be the financial planner for my family so that they can have a comfortable retirement. And so that was kind of my motivation to be like, okay, I'm gonna go into the bank and learn personal finance and learn about mortgages and investments and CPP, OAS, all that sort of stuff, so that when they do retire, which they are now, I
Yeah.
can take over the finances and kind of plan for them. And it's kind of turned out that way. Now I am their planner, so to speak, kind of with their property and stuff like that. But it turns out we had more money than I thought we they told me, and it came from, I think, and it's nice because, like, I think at that time I was still a baby, right? In terms
Sure.
of, in their minds, like, okay, this guy's going to business school, but what does that really mean? But I
Sure.
think over the years, as I talked to my dad and my mom, and my dad handled most of the finances, so my mom's always been kind of just like, oh, I heard this, good stock, buy banks, from this person.
Sure.
She's heard from the from the Chinese radio station,
Sure.
and so yeah, that's kind of what I've like my influence. So yeah, I never had anyone like, I mean, did they give me allowance? I think they did.
I
Um,
didn't get an allowance.
yeah, but it was again. I mean, I think the biggest lesson, if I were to, kind of think back, I think from my dad, actually not from my mom, but from my dad, he's a very generous person.
Okay.
And so he's big on tithing, to the church and other
Hmm.
charities and stuff. And that's one thing that really impressed me, right? Even, when he had little, he would always set aside that 10%. And he
Sure.
would always kind of give. And, when he sold his place, like, that's the first thing he talked about. It wasn't like, buying a new thing or for himself. It was like, okay, how do I give back this 10% to the church and other
Hmm.
charities? And we're in the process of potentially setting kind of like a giving foundation sort of thing, and that really brought kind of, that was like music to my ears, which was like, yeah, this is always in the back of my mind, to kind of create this kind of giving foundation. And we talked about it too in our wills, kind of like, okay, yeah, we can give it to our parents, but no, what are some causes we're really, Haley and I are really keen on, and that's like mental health is big for us. International kind of development, and Haley has a big heart for like Cambodia, and things that are going on there. So when I kind of think back, I'm like, yeah, actually, my dad has been influential that way, in terms of kind of giving back. But again, Mother's Day, so let's focus on the mom. Yeah, the things I picked up from her was, again, save, couponing. Don't always just buy the first thing that's available. Like, shop around. Like, she would always go to Chinatown, goes to Crystal Mall, finds the best deal. So I picked that up. It was like, okay, Safeway was always the most expensive to go to a superstore. Like, Safeway is convenient, you got everything, but I was like, oh, to me, I was brought up convenient. There's a price to convenience, so never take the most convenient route. Like, do the do the work.
I was told the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? But like I said, a couple episodes ago, I use Instacart almost
Yeah.
every month now
Yeah.
to basically buy groceries.
Yeah, and to me now, that's where I'm breaking that kind of that frugality, I guess. Like, for me, I'm like, is it worth it? Especially with gas being like at like what, 216 now a liter. I'm like,
No,
is
I
it
drive an
worth it?
EV. I don't have an
Yeah, I
excuse.
know.
For me, it's just time.
But yeah, time, right? That's
Yeah.
key for me too. But it's like, yeah, does it even make sense for me to go out and pick up the pizza or pay the $5 and just have it delivered?
Well, I still pick up my pizza. I still pick up my pizza. I refuse to pay for delivery and tip the guy like 10, 15 bucks. I'm a huge jack. Like I got that from my mom. My mom picked up the pizza.
Yeah, I picked up the pizza. I mean, I still do, because they, the coupons sometimes require you to.
At $225, my bill out rate, I'm gonna go pick up pizza.
So what's
I learned that from my mom. I gotta save pennies here. But my mom basically led me to accounting. It's the same thing.
No.
Kind of like you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My mom. No, I was in business school and I had two choices of career.
Yeah.
It's finance or accounting.
Right.
And when I told her marketing and human resources, she shook her head at me and it's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, well, mom, I can't get into finance. It's like, well, then you're going to go into accounting. And that's what happened. So I have to thank, if I have anyone to thank for my career, the goods and the bads it brings.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I will assign that to my mom.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's family of origin. It's always it always comes back to that. I mean, psychologists, counselors, they all talk about it, and you wonder why. It's a cliche, right? It's like, oh, tell me about your childhood. But I think a lot of things that happen in our childhood kind of, creates these things, these stories, of where, it creates your values, so to speak, and
Yeah.
and it's usually what you were missing the most that becomes kind of those core values that are the most important to you.
I think so. I agree with that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I didn't, and it's really now kind of like the focus of as I kind of create my mission statement and the type of clients I want to serve. It's it is my life story, right? It's like, the dad who was missing. Why? Because we thought we didn't have enough money, so dad thought he had to always work. And so, like, my story now is like, no, you don't have to always work, right? You just need to know where the money is going.
Yeah.
Like, have a budget, and then 2, spend within your means, and 3, okay, yes, income is important, but it doesn't mean working 9 to 5, especially now with the internet, with all these side hustles that you can do. Like, okay, like, you don't have to do the 9 to 5, and if you do, like, are you bringing enough value to, is your company paying you for the value that you bring, or you're discounting yourself, which a lot of people are, because of the confidence, right? It's like, oh, I don't know if I can ask for more. It's like, of course you can, right? And these are the ways that you can do it. You build a business case to be like, this is how much I'm worth to the company, and pay me more for it, instead of scrimping peanuts and saving and couponing and all that. Like, do all that too, but on top of it, make sure that you're being paid for what you're worth, especially, and we're living in this, age called the Great Resignation, right? When, like, we're the lowest, I think on the headline, lowest employment rate in the history, if not like in the last 20 years or whatever. So, workers have a lot of power right now to dictate, not just the things about, going back to the office, but really work condition, time, and, if your job has worked, in working from home, Like, there's, and there was a funny article, I think, by Harvard Business Review about why managers want employees to go back. It's because of that, I think it was control, or that, just it worked better for them. But it's like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
it's last 2 years, it's shown that you can work, you can manage from a camera. Like, you don't need to see them physically. Yes, there are some benefits, but it doesn't have to be every single day. It could be the core hours, as some
Yeah,
articles have mentioned. So
yeah. The hybrid
the
model,
hybrid
basically.
model, yeah, it's
Yeah.
100%. I think that's yeah, that should be how, work is. And yeah, people are more efficient. I mean, just think of the time you save from like commuting, and that you know
10 hours a week.
yeah. And now I
Yeah.
can like go and like run, spend more, like drop off my son at daycare. Like that pays
At 10 hours,
dividends.
I walk my dog for 10 hours, and I get 10 hours of exercise in.
Yeah, which is huge. That's longevity, right? Like,
Yeah,
versus being stuck in a car and they'll cut into your lifespan.
yeah.
So, so I guess in summary and in ending and in conclusion, what are anything planned for Mother's Day? Any tips for
Um,
the last minute husbands and fathers out there?
plan in advance, right? Quite frankly, I think it has to do with what you said at the very beginning of this call,
Yeah.
right? No, it sneaks up right on you. Haley didn't even know, like, Mother's Day was tomorrow, right? No, I think it's just important to plan in advance, right? And not to, I think with Mother's Day is not truly a holiday,
No.
right? But it's a day of recognition,
Yes.
right? And it's that one day a year where you can choose to, out of the other 364 days, right, to pay your respects,
Yeah.
right? Like, mothers have sacrificed so much for, I'm just gonna say you, right? Even your wife has sacrificed a lot for you,
Yes.
right? To add, your son to your life,
Yes.
right? Like, it's so important to pay your respect that that they were willing to do this for you. There's no reason why you shouldn't that. There's no reason why you should brush this off.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
my final words.
Yeah, and and to all the moms out there, keep up the great work. You are superheroes, like that article mentioned, and yeah, you deserve, all, like, Mother's Day is every day, right? And shouldn't just be just one day. It's just like a moment, to recognize. But I think the key here is kind of, that partnership, that you're not alone. I would say, I would venture to say most husbands want to help, just don't know how. So just gear us in the right direction. Just tell us what to do. And for the husbands out there, right, start to be aware, pick up the little things, and learn as you go, and surprise your wives, right? Like, it's sometimes it's those dishes, those bottles that need washing, that piece of garbage on the floor, or that beer bottle that you finished and just tucking it away. Little things like that you think don't matter, it just ends up mattering.
Yeah.
And asking for feedback. I think
It's just the little
communication.
things.
Yeah, it's the little things, but it's the little things that matters the most. It's crazy. You think you
Yeah.
have to buy her like big gift basket and stuff, and Haley always tells me, no, just do this, and I'm like, that's it. She's like, yeah, that means everything to me, right? This small action, the fact that you remember this, like, if I don't have to tell you to do this, like, this will matter more than this big teddy bear gift basket. I mean, those things are fun, and get them too, but really, if the advice I would give is, just small things, right? Like, and for those fathers thinking about, like, breakfast in bed, if they like. I mean, Haley doesn't like it. She's very clean and neat, so she doesn't like the idea of having breakfast in
Sure.
bed. She's like, don't dirty my sheets, don't you dare. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, sure, I'll just make you breakfast and I'll serve it to you
Serve at the table.
at the table, and you can come down, right? And like that article said, even if it's cold, like, it's just the thought that counts.
Yeah.
And then just kind of, I told her, I'm like, sleep in tomorrow, and I got you. And like, I always give this cleavage. I'm like, unless our son calls for you, because then I can't control it. Because then he would actually send me, like, away. It's funny, if he wants mom that morning, he'll tell me "Baba down," right downstairs. He's like,
Yeah.
"I don't want you." It's like I'm like, "No, mom needs to sleep. I'm here." No, Baba down, go. And I'm like, okay. And she knows, right? She's listening in there, and so she'll get up and attend. And give him a hug. But yeah, there are like if he wakes up and he's like it's okay, he's like oh hi Baba, and then he kind of takes me in the room or brings me downstairs, and I always tell Haley I'm like take it right like
Yeah.
when he's okay and doesn't need you for that moment, then yeah I'm hands down, and I do most mornings now. Like I'm more of a morning person anyway, so.
Sure.
So it works out, and she gets to sleep in, and she has her day and stuff. But yeah, like yeah, putting your wife first, and it's about that. Just remember your vows, right? That you've made on the wedding. Like sometimes along the lines of I'm gonna make you the most lucky. At least for me, I said you're gonna be the luckiest girl on this planet. You're very important to me. For better, for worse, all that sort of stuff. And we tend to forget. I mean, I can't say we. I tend to forget. And I always be like, oh my goodness, I made this promise. And I was reading my vow, I think, yeah, when we had Cohen, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I said these words. I'm like, holy. I was like, okay, so and you have
You gotta
kid.
step up. You gotta
You
step
gotta
up.
step up. You gotta step up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I made a joke about how my stock was at the all-time low, and then you picked me up, and it was gonna go up. You were at my wedding, and then,
I remember
yeah,
that.
and then everyone was having a laugh, and I was like, oh my goodness, the stock crashed when I became a dad, and she still held on. So I'm like, I want to reward you as the kennel used stock takes a game stock kind of miracle rise. I'm like, we were at the lowest moment, and she was there. So, thank you, to the women in our lives, the moms, the wives. You guys, not guys, girls, you ladies rock. Keep
Yeah.
it up. Yeah, we're here to support 100%. Yeah.
Well said. All right, I think that sums it up. Great chat tonight, Kennel.
Yes, and next week, same time.
Next week, same time.
Topic to be announced.
Topic to be announced. We'll get there.
We'll get there. All right.
All right, have a good night.
You too.